What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video here to preview the New York Jets versus the Dallas Cowboys. 1-0 Jets, 1-0 Dallas Cowboys. And yes, the Zach Wilson jersey is out of mothballs. It is ready to go. We broke it back out. Gotta support the guy because we don't have another choice right now. So gotta hope that Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson connection is going strong at the New York Jets. Can maybe, just maybe, ride this thing out to a playoff spot. Wouldn't that be fun? But first, before we get ahead of ourselves and talking playoffs, are you kidding me? Let's preview this game. So right now, the Cowboys have the number one offense and defense after week one because they put up a 40 spot and they gave up 0 points. The Jets 12th on offense, okay, and 8th in terms of defense, which I don't read too much into either one of those things because it's week one and these are only numbers off of week one performance. So naturally, the big storyline, I'm wearing the number 2 and number 2 is starting. And how about Breece Hall quote tweeting your boy saying we all believe in number 2? How about that? That was pretty cool. Was not expecting to see that, but glad that the team is rallying behind him. And I really hope that it finally clicks upstairs for Zach Wilson. But there is a really big difference between the two. Aaron Rodgers, obviously high ceiling player, really, really good. And he has owned the Dallas Cowboys in his past. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly, which is a plus against that defensive line, where Zach Wilson has had the tendencies of holding onto the ball for too long, and against the defense that has an elite pass rush that could, in theory, be a recipe for disaster, and is absolutely something that I am keeping a close eye in this game, is how quickly is Zach Wilson getting the ball out of his hands? Is he climbing the pocket? Is he bailing on it and running 100 yards behind the line of scrimmage? What version of Zach Wilson are we getting in this game? Now, looking at Dak Prescott, that is also an interesting storyline to watch because he wasn't really asked to do a whole lot in this game or in week one against the New York Giants because they were already up big by the time that they were coming out to play on offense. But last year, Dak only played in 12 games, but threw 15 interceptions, which led the league. That was uncharacteristic of Dak Prescott. The 15 interceptions is way high for him. He's usually someone who does not turn over the ball that much. Now, I think Dak is a pretty good quarterback. I think he gets way too much hate. I think some of the Cowboys hate is a little over the top, and specifically with Dak Prescott, I think he gets a lot of the blame there, and I don't necessarily put it on him. He's solid. He's above average quarterback, but what the Jets could try to do is take advantage of something that he was bad at last year, which is turnovers. They got Josh Allen to turn over the ball 4 times. Almost 6, really, because C.J. Mosley dropped an interception and there was a fumble that was blown dead when it probably shouldn't have. So almost 6 turnovers, actually 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and a fumble loss. If the Jets are going to stay in this game, I think they have to pick off Dak Prescott at least one time. I mentioned it, but both teams have a deadly pass rush. 7 sacks for the Dallas Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons are the 2 guys who are going to get a ton of the credit, but they are a really, really deep unit. The Jets had 5 sacks against the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, like, the similarities between these two teams are really interesting. Pass rush and cornerback rooms. That's what they are built around. That's where the strength of the defense is. But they also have some question marks on the offensive line. For the Dallas Cowboys, there's a really good chance that Chuma Edoga, remember Chuma Edoga? Yeah, he's going to be starting at left guard for them this week due to injuries. So that is something to keep a close eye on. Hello, Quinnen Williams and Quentin Jefferson mismatch in the center and the middle of that offensive line, creating havoc up the A-gap and things like that. That excites me. But also for the New York Jets side, like, hey, good luck. You got to block Micah Parsons. And the tackles, I think Dwayne Brown is a little bit more concerning. He started slow. Now, I've kind of said my piece on it, but I don't blame him for the Aaron Rodgers injury. He was doing what the play design was, which they were to, cut out the legs of the defender. And, Aaron Rodgers, the ball was supposed to be out quickly. It didn't happen. And it is what it is. But outside of that, it was not the best of games for Dwayne Brown, and specifically Laken Tomlinson. So that left side of the offensive line concerns me more. I've had it out up to about here with Laken Tomlinson. I'm about done. Really short leash for me going forward because I don't know how much more I could take. He was brutal for them last year, and in the first game this year, he struggled again. So it's just sorry, maybe that's unfair. Maybe it's unrealistic to be like, hey, like you have to look competent, even though you're like one of the highest paid guards in the league. I'm not even asking you to be that Pro Bowler that you were your last year in San Francisco. Like, just be a functioning guard. Can we get that? Not be in a below average turnstile? Because that's really what it was, unfortunately, in week 1. He was not very good. And the Jets have Joe Tippmann just waiting in the wings. Originally, I said after the bye week for Joe Tippmann, talking about like week 8, maybe somewhere around then we see him. That might have been generous. I don't know if we'll necessarily see him like this week, obviously, or maybe it's a tough ask to be like, hey, you got to play the Patriots in your first game. But again, really short leash for Laken Tomlinson, who's stunk so far with the New York Jets, which is upsetting because I liked the signing at the time. I thought, all right, try to bring in a guard here. But they got to do something, and I think we might see Joe Tippmann bigger sooner rather than later because it's getting a little bit much for me. Mentioned a little bit earlier the corner duo for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, they have a good slot corner also, but Diggs and Gilmore are very good at creating turnovers. So something of interest to me that I might try a little bit is get Garrett Wilson involved in the slot. They did that last year. 36% of his snaps were taken in the slot versus the outside. And I would expect the Dallas Cowboys to do that with CeeDee Lamb, with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner on the outside. So I would expect to see both teams, again, it's funny, they're similar in a few ways, move their number one wide receivers inside and to create some mismatches that way. And just get the ball to Garrett Wilson in space. He's too good to have 35 receiving yards in a game. They need to up that number this week. Get him targets. Just feed him the ball, whether it's on screens, whether it's just him getting open. He's too talented of a player to not be targeted that much. The Jets need to lean on the run game as well in this game. Last week, obviously, Breece Hall went off with his 10 carries. Dalvin Cook had 13 carries. They need to be over 30 carries. Not just those two guys. You could include Michael Carter, Izzy Abanikanda if you want to make him active, Zach Wilson. But to me, that's the number. 30 plus carries every week. We're going back to 2009, 2010 New York Jets football because the best games that Zach Wilson has played as a member of the New York Jets were when they were running the crap out of the football. When against the Buffalo Bills last year, ran it 30 plus times. Against the Miami Dolphins at home when they beat them, ran it 30 plus times. That is the key to success. And for me, Breece Hall, again, looked like the ACL was not an issue. He had a multiple big runs, and I'm not saying you got to feed him 20 times a game. He's not ready for that yet, and it's a long season. You want to make sure he is good to go throughout the entirety of the season, but hopefully Dalvin Cook gets going a little bit more. 2.5 yards a carry on 13 carries is not very good, but that's a very stout run defense for Buffalo, where Dallas, they seem a little bit susceptible to the run. As we saw the New York Giants on their opening series run the ball right down their throat. So that's a reason why I think Jets have to lean on the run game to stay in this game as well as creating turnovers and Zach Wilson not turning the ball over. So let's go through. I'll give you my stat predictions. We'll do Wilson, the 2 running backs, and Garrett Wilson for my stat predictions today. I am saying Zach Wilson, 17 of 28, which is a 60.7 completion percentage, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I do think he gets picked off. I would love for that number to be 0, but the Dallas Cowboys defense is so good at creating turnovers. I think he gets 1, but that would be an okay Zach Wilson day. I think that would keep them in the game, at least. At the very least, they'll be in this game. Garrett Wilson, he'll catch the touchdown pass and have 6 catches for 72 yards. A much better performance there for Garrett Wilson. Again, he's too talented not to get him the ball and try to force feed him targets. Breece Hall, I'll go 12 carries, 60 yards. That's still 5 yards a carry. I don't think it's fair to expect him to put up over 10 yards a carry every single week. That's absolutely insane. But 5 yards a carry from Breece Hall on 12 carries. And Dalvin Cook, I have 10 carries, 31 yards. A little bit concerned after week 1. Hopefully Dalvin gives you a little bit more. He's rushed well against the Cowboys in his career, so that's something to at least take as a positive. Let's get into the score prediction and my pick. So last week I took the Jets against the spread and outright, and the Jets won the game. Casey was on the Buffalo Bills, the road team, at -2.5. So she lost. So she is 0-1. I'm 1-0. I'm taking the Jets plus 9.5. I think they cover that big number for sure because it is, I think, at least going to project to be a low-scoring game. I don't see the Dallas Cowboys running away with it just because of how good that Jets defense is. Even if you have 0 faith in Zach Wilson, the defense is going to keep them in this game, exactly like what was happening in the Buffalo Bills game before the Jets offense finally came on a little bit there at the end of the game. But as far as the score goes, I am going to take the Cowboys to win this game. I do think the Jets keep it close. I'll say 16-13. It's a field goal game. I just don't think the Jets have enough on offense with Zach Wilson, unfortunately, to get past the Dallas Cowboys. Can they win? Sure, but I'm not going to predict the Jets to win every single game. I don't think that is realistic or fair. And I think the Cowboys get it done at a 16-3 win and they cover. Let's see who Casey likes this week. Casey is also on the Jets plus 9.5. So hopefully she is at 1-1. Hopefully I am at 2-0. And hopefully the Jets are at 2-0 at the end of the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.